women fall in this category too nowadays. There's a lot of women on Instagram. They just want to look good and like get all these likes and go to the Bahamas and then look good in their bikini and get all the googly eyes on social media. But they're not looking for a real relationship. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Pastor and Wife podcast.
We welcome you to hang out with us today.
I'm Hansel.
I'm Natalie.
Okay, we are talking about the 3 red flags that keep you from a good marriage.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're talking about that would keep you from
Finding.
Yeah. So when you're dating, the 3 red flags to look for.
Yes.
Before you get married,
yes,
right?
That's right. Before
Yes.
you get married.
Yes.
Because if you're already married, then there are going to be problems.
It's a different thing entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Almost
it's a whole different level of commitment. So yeah, we're talking about when you're in a relationship and you're dating and you're looking for, are there red flags or not?
Yes. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's get to it. What is the first red flag that we have?
Relationships, I think I want to say first that relationships can be really confusing and you can see a lot of different like micro things happening in a relationship. Mm-hmm. And so we've really, I think, narrowed it down to 3 big ones that I think will maybe help you if you're looking for things or if you're struggling or if you're confused, that will help you to kind of kind of keep like a macro, like big eye view, and then be able to recognize how the little things are categorized into big deal things.
Okay, yeah. That's a good way to do it because every relationship's different.
Right.
But there's commonalities that we have to look out for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So first one is a red flag would be if the person is non-committal.
Okay, people are going to go, well, that's obvious. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. I've seen you guys, maybe not you guys specifically, but people who are dating, choose people to date that are non-committal because they're hot or they have a nice car or they have money. So what do you have to say about that?
This can be like a big category for so many little things that I think maybe we might not realize are associated with being non-committal.
Okay.
So I think the first thing that we can talk about is just if you're dating someone who maybe agrees with everything that you say, doesn't ever disagree.
That's weird.
Or someone who kind of just goes along with whatever you do and doesn't really show up, in a relationship.
So there's a difference there. Like I can speak from a man's perspective. There's a guy that doesn't show up, that's not really saying yes to everything. He's just not around, or he's around but not present. Okay.
So what would that look like?
That would look like the Asian dude. Like a typical, like not excited about anything, super stoic, just wants the title of being in a relationship, but not contributing, not suggesting, not leading, those types of things. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just kind of having a non-committal attitude in the relationship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I equally despise the beta boy too. The one that says yes to everything. Like he doesn't have his own mind. He doesn't have his own opinions. He doesn't have his own preferences. Mm-hmm. I think that many women find that boring.
I would not. I can't respect a man who's like that.
Yeah, we've seen that time and time again where women think that's what they want.
Right.
And then so they go for this guy and he just says yes to everything that she wants. Mm-hmm. And then she goes, why am I so disgusted with him? Right?
Exactly.
It's because you don't want that. Mm-hmm. You were taught somewhere down the line that you're the strong, empowered woman, and the guy that you're supposed to marry has to say yes to everything that you want. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right.
Okay.
And then you end up losing respect totally.
Right.
So I think that would go along with that is a person who maybe doesn't have a vision for his or her life, or doesn't have direction, maybe.
Yeah.
So that could be non-committal towards like, I don't know, his or her life.
Yeah. I think it's wise to be a person that knows where they're going, so that when you find someone to go on the journey with, there's a direction, right?
Right.
And I think guys have, they failed to launch in this generation. And I feel bad for them because they've been taught in the schools and in popular culture that just listen to the woman, you know? And I'm not saying you can't. There's very valuable things women have to teach men and can show men that they can't see naturally. But at the same time, you can't throw away your God-given leadership in a relationship. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be someone going. If there's two chefs in the kitchen, you're just going to have a mess. You're not going to have a meal. Right?
Yeah.
So I think guys have to learn how to be assertive without being too domineering. Like, no one wants a tyrant dictator as a husband, but every woman I know wants an assertive guy that's a leader.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. This could be like I was thinking of this is kind of like number 3 that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
But leading spiritually in
Yes.
a relationship, that has a big and I a lot of my friends who have been married for a long time still kind of wonder, like, can my husband lead our family spiritually?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of women are more spiritual, than than men.
I know it bothers me so much because the majority of women in the church, majority of people in the church are women, and they're praying, in their secret place, praying and waiting for their man to take the lead spiritually. And it's not happening because they didn't marry a spiritual man. They married someone who, is a nominal Christian or not even a Christian at all. And so that's a red flag. That's a huge red flag. But that's number 3, right?
Yeah.
So we'll get back to that. But going to the non-committal, and it's all related. If you can't commit to Jesus, you're not going to commit to a wife or a husband.
Right.
And I would say women fall in this category too nowadays. There's a lot of women on Instagram. They just want to look good and like get all these likes and go to the Bahamas and then look good in their bikini and get all the googly eyes on social media. But they're not looking for a real relationship because I saw a video, and I think this is more common than not, of a lady who's in her 30s now. And she is like sad because all the guys and she's filming this whole thing, all the guys that, she meets and wants to date and possibly get married to, end up giving her the cold shoulder after a date or two. And I found the reason, she's not saying it on her little vlog or anything, but the reason is she is saying, well, she's being honest. I commend that, but I don't think it would be helpful because she's just saying, oh, this is how many men I slept with. And then sleeps with these guys, adding to the total. And unfortunately, guys don't like that.
Yeah.
Guys don't like a woman who's slept with a whole bunch of dudes for marriage. Now, if you're not a Christian, you're just like, oh, this is going to be a one-night stand. This is chalk another one on the list or whatever. But that's disrespect, that someone's mother, or not mother, well, hopefully not. Well, that's common nowadays.
Could be
Someone's mother. Could be it's someone's daughter.
right.
Someone's sister, and it's just sad because I think women bought into the lie that they have to be just like men. Now, men, you're not, according to the Bible, you're not supposed to fornicate either. So, if you complain about like promiscuous behavior, then don't do promiscuous behavior either. But that's the thing. It's sad because they're not getting it. I get it. Like, not everybody remains virgins, until they get married, and that's the ideal, and that's what needs to happen to get relationships as a whole back on track. But I'm going to be frank, it's disgusting to just see women throw away their bodies and throw away their femininity by sleeping with all sorts of men, and then it's just so sad. I feel for them. I feel bad that now they hit 30 and their biological clock is ticking, and all of a sudden nobody wants to be with them. And it's like, I don't want to say it, but I have to say, it's like you did something in your past that caused this situation. Luckily there's probably some Christian guy out there that can forego that. You know what I mean? Because we're the most forgiving people on the planet.
Christians, yeah.
Christians are. Because it's in our faith that because we are forgiven by Christ, we can forgive others for things that, we deem disgusting. But at the same time, these women aren't looking in the place where they can find love like that. They can find a partner like that. So what do you think? Like, what's the solution to that?
I mean, I just keep thinking about being committed to the Lord and just living according to how He wants us to live. It's really the best way that we can be the most blessed and the most happy in our lives. So commitment to the Lord, commitment to one person, and it's not beneficial or empowering to just kind of sleep around or have your conquests or whatever, or just have everyone just do what you want them to do.
Right.
It's very demeaning, I think.
Right. It is demeaning. And you're looking for someone who's going to be there in your worst and best times. I officiate weddings, and I say that. Be there in your worst and best times till death do you part, in sickness and in health. Like, that's what I know almost all women want. But they have to be that first. You know what I mean? And
each person has to be that
that's
first.
what I was going to say.
And
I ask guys, they want a woman that's going to be by their side no matter what happens, no matter how big of mistakes they make in leading the relationships. They want the woman to be there regardless, but they have to be that too. Right? It takes two. You can't just have one person committed and one person not.
Right. Doesn't work that way.
No, that's not a marriage. That's
a red flag.
That's a red flag. And so we get the complaint, though, right? Like from both men and women, that there's nobody out there like that. What do you think?
I don't know. It might be hard to find. I mean, I feel for people, but I mean, like you said in the last episode, I think. When are we gonna air this one next?
Yeah.
And the last episode was that you have to be the person that you want to find.
You have to be that person, yeah. And then, when you are built up, the person that is equally yoked to you will magically appear. But it's not magic; it's the Lord.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like committed people are hard to find because society is non-committal. Right? So you got to go to a place where they teach people to be committed, which is the church. And, unfortunately, the rate of fornication within the church is about the same as in the rest of the world.
Is it really? I mean,
yeah.
It almost doesn't shock me.
Yeah. I made a YouTube short of our last podcast, and it was saying, is fornication ruining your relationships? We got 3 views. Where we get between like 400 to 1,000 something views on those shorts. And, 3 views, it's because people read the thing and they're not going to watch it.
Nope.
Because, I've already fornicated. I don't want to hear anything bad about myself. But sometimes we have to hear what's wrong with us to fix the problem.
Well, I think that's part of the problem. I mean, we're church leaders, so this is what it always goes back to, is just... are people learning about this at church? I think a lot of churches don't teach about this.
No, they say nothing about fornication. They talk a lot about adultery, but they don't talk about premarital sex or promiscuity. Because
I mean, we have had a lot of people ask us who claim to be Christian.
Yeah,
they're like, "Oh, is that really for real?"
Yes, it's
Like,
real.
is that in the Bible? Like, I
Yes.
thought that was a Catholic thing, or I thought that was just like whatever, just some rule that Christians made up, like, yeah, it's for real.
It's not an arbitrary rule because, we decided to wait until we were married. And one of the reasons is, old timer told me in the faith, a very respectable person in the faith told me, hey, if you practice premarital sex, you're practicing adultery in the future.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, if someone could, have sex with you outside of marriage, they can have sex with someone else outside of when you're married,
Right?
Outside of the marriage, right?
Yeah.
So it just made sense to me, like why God said that.
Yep.
Yeah. So non-committal, right?
Yep.
You're just you're getting the milk before you're buying the cow. Like that's what it is. Don't do that.
Yep.
What's the second thing?
Okay. Red flag number 2 would be a lack of respect.
Lack of respect. Okay, so most of the time, I think when I hear that, I think about in a male perspective because I like that book, Love and Respect. I think that book
Right.
has so many truths in it. Like men feel loved when they're respected, and women feel respected when they're loved. So I think that's 100% true. And so when you say lack of respect, I just see a lot of disrespect towards men lately.
Okay. Yeah.
In general, not just in relationships, because culture dictates how you act in a relationship, right? So when the culture is disrespectful towards men, then in a relationship you feel the freedom and the entitlement to be disrespectful, and you don't anticipate a bad reaction. You know what I mean? Like, why would we do that? We're supposed to respect everybody. But in general, men are perceived to be the stupid one,
Right.
or, not responsible, lazy, not with the times, So it's like, no, if you want a guy that's committed, you want a traditional man.
Pretty much.
So you have to respect that.
Yep.
So it's
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah, this plays out if you're dating a person and they don't answer to any authority in their life.
Good point.
That's a red flag. That's lack of respect, not answering to authority or being under authority.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to add to that too, because a leader cannot be a leader unless he was a follower at one point in time. So for a man to want authority and be respected, but they don't have an authority, then they are not to be respected because they don't know how to get anywhere.
Yeah, it's really true what they say. In order to earn respect, you have to know how to give respect.
Yes, absolutely. How about from the woman's side? I mean, if a man's disrespectful to a woman, how does that play out?
To me, the reason why I thought of this is because I was considering someone at some point who did not have respect for my dad.
Really?
Yeah, and he kind of just
Whoa.
had this lack of respect for people in general. He did respect some people in his life, but yeah, and I just thought, you know what? There's an authority issue here, and this is not gonna. There's no way I can be with a guy who doesn't respect my dad.
Yeah, that is
You know what I
crazy
mean?
to me.
Yeah.
See, I'm from a Asian culture where that is a death sentence. That is a deal breaker.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was for me, and
Yeah.
I'm not even Asian, but that's obviously important to me. And when people say you're not marrying just a person, you're marrying
Yeah.
a family. It's
You
like two
are.
families coming together. That's really
That's
true.
right.
That's how I want it to be, because I have a nice family, and
I love your parents. They're
Yeah.
so amazing.
and you have a great family, and so we want this to be a one
Yeah.
big happy family, uniting our families. And I think that's the way that the world was supposed to work.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, I see all these people, like, since the police are carrying badge cams now,
Yeah.
and, like, all these people getting arrested or getting hurt by the police. I'm not saying I'm advocating for police brutality. I'm not. But some of these guys, these people, even women, all they could have done is be respectful,
Right.
and then fight it in court.
Right.
But no, they just mouth off, or they try to fight the police, and boom, there you go. Like, and I think these are the same people that ruin relationships.
Yeah, you know that they're not in a healthy relationship if they do that.
Yeah. Like it
Yeah.
or not, I've seen so many, the only domestic violence was man towards woman before. And that's a travesty. That should never happen. But more and more I see women on men now. The domestic violence, which is crazy because
Yeah.
most men, granted, man, I've seen so much restraint, and I've seen some that just, fought back, and it's not even fair. But I, not even 5 years ago, I could not believe the amount of domestic violence from women towards men now. And a man feels totally disrespected when that happens. And then women could say, well, because he was cheating on me and this and that. And that's both the same problem. You
Yeah.
guys are both treating each other with disrespect.
With disrespect, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like hearing your point of view too, because it's really different from mine, but the idea is the same. Mutual respect, and you give respect, and you want to earn respect, and but from where I'm coming from, as a woman, it's really important that you respected my authority, my parents.
Yes.
And I think in a relationship in general, like we've run into a lot of young people who kind of have crazy parents.
Yeah.
And even parents who like don't honor the Lord with their things that they require of their children, and and we meet these young adults when they are seeking God and wanting to do what God has for their lives. But I think even so, if they found a significant other, someone that they're interested in and considering marrying, I think it would be honoring to the Lord if that person had respect for their parents, at least, for the people who brought them into the world, to pursue at least, peacemaking and, a general honor and respect for the parents.
Yeah, that's a good point. It starts off with that. I use the example with the police. It's like that's an extreme example to prove a point.
But it goes back to how they were raised.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, that's why there is a local church. That's why online church can't do everything. You can get the same teaching online. That's true. But there's no accountability, like when let's say someone is in a bad marriage, right? They need a third party that is, if you're an atheist, I don't know, you go through a therapist, which is great. But I think the best thing is for Christians is to listen to God. And what better way is if they have someone they both trust that knows what God has said or is saying to them right now. Both a person that has both their interests in mind, that wants to salvage the marriage. And if you don't have that, then you're going to go back and forth. You're going to, one person, you're going to try to make it better. And then all of a sudden, somebody fails big time, and then this person retaliates, and then that person retaliates, and then it goes nowhere.
Yeah, and it has so much to do with that trust pillar. It's showing that you trust that person and showing that you respect them, and it has to go both ways. So this could also be, if someone tries to pressure you to do things that aren't honoring to the Lord, or something that you're not comfortable with. Obviously, that's not respectful.
Yeah.
And let's see. I think someone who is not teachable, not open to any correction.
Right. That's goes along with respecting authority. It's like, that's why I'm a pastor. I'm not there to be a dictator. I'm there to be kind of like a referee, so to speak, sometimes, right? The referee is an official that has authority over both teams to make the game fair right? So that's the thing, when people don't go to church and they don't have a pastor that they actually know. Some people go to church, but they don't know any of the pastors at the church. They
Right.
just go like they go to McDonald's every week and nothing happens,
Or like they go to the grocery store.
Yeah, grocery.
I want this thing, so I'll go to the store.
Yeah.
I feel like this week. I'll go to that store.
Yeah, and the Bible is filled with just the encouragement for community.
Yeah.
Community is so important, and I get it. There's been a lot of pastors that have abused their flock,
Yeah.
but the vast majority haven't. And
That's
are good
true.
people.
That's true. We
good
hear so
leaders.
much. We hear so much, especially now, especially this year. Oh my gosh.
There has been a lot
Yeah.
of big names that have fallen, right?
Yeah.
But I like this subject because, again, a man who doesn't know how to follow will never know how to lead. Mm-hmm. And
good.
so if a man can't follow Jesus,
Right.
through the scriptures or through a local church, you're not going to want him. All the things I said about marriage, if you're already experiencing that before marriage, that could be a deal breaker too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. This could be a person who you can't ever disagree with them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So-
bad too. Mm-hmm. Like a person who always agrees with you, bad. A person who always disagrees with you or you can't disagree with them, also bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think that goes in the respect. Do you have anything else? That's kind of all that
No, not for that one. That one's pretty clear.
yeah.
What's the third one?
The third red flag is I thought about doing it first, but it's kind of like the most important thing to me is that third red flag would be to have a different faith than you or a different level of faith. It's that unequally yoked thing.
That's the verse that I
So what does
have.
that look like, and how do you know?
Well, 2 Corinthians 6:14 and 15 says, "Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers, for what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness, or what fellowship has light with darkness? What accord has Christ with Belial?" So Belial is another name for the devil, or Belial, right? Or demon. Or what portion does a believer share with an unbeliever? So this might seem harsh at first, but it is wisdom. This is Paul writing to the Corinthian church, and they had a problem with it. He wouldn't be talking about it if they didn't have a problem with it. And he's referencing the people of God in the past, the Israelites.
Right.
God
yeah.
told them, "I am a jealous God. Do not make covenants with foreign nations. Do not marry their women,
Right.
for you will worship other gods."
Right. Because the other women have other gods that they bring with them.
Yeah.
It's a merging of two families.
Right.
And you can't mix two, a demon and, and God.
And God, you're going to have war.
Right.
And if your faith isn't strong in God, you might be overrun. I'm just going to say that outright. I've seen it so many times.
Well, it's all throughout the Bible.
Yeah. Unequally yoked means they are the same spiritual level as you, right?
It means they're different.
I mean, sorry, that means
Yeah.
they're different. Yes.
Right.
They are either they are not in the same faith as you, or the disparity, the gap between your two faiths is too high. The gap is too much, right?
Right.
So we have to be really careful in who we choose. I will never officiate a wedding between a Christian and an atheist, because that's not going to work. People say, "Well, I've seen people make it work." It only works, quote unquote, works if the Christian, just waters down their faith.
As a nominal Christian.
Yeah, that only works. That's not even real.
An atheist, a nominal atheist.
Yeah, and
They're
a
just
nominal atheist too, right? You're both, watered down people at the end of the day.
Right. Right.
Well, at least we love each other. That may be true, but then your truest self is not going to be built up. And that's the thing. Like, even I would never actually, this might piss people off, but I would never marry a Protestant Christian evangelical with a Catholic. I would not do it because there are stark differences between the two faiths. Now, both agree Jesus is Lord, Jesus is King, but there are too many differences and disagreements within the two faiths that last thousands of years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
What is that Dave Chappelle joke? Was it Dave Chappelle?
what?
that talked about a crackhead and a Christian or
Oh
something.
yeah,
like
you can't get together because one wants to do crack, one wants to go to church, right? Yeah. Oh, and people say, no, it's only 500 years. I said thousands.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, I'm speaking from a Protestant perspective where we believe like we're actually doing what the early church did. But anyways, that's for a different time.
Yeah.
But that's a huge deal. That's a huge deal. Like we said before, like we know people who are evangelical Christians that had a difference between how they believed the spiritual gifts operate, or if they're active today.
Right.
And they didn't make it because that was the major point of contention in a divorce.
Yeah.
And so like you have to be very careful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, and then this goes back to what we mentioned already was that, if you're a woman, can the man be the spiritual leader of your family, which you're going to want, whether your faith is strong and, or not, like that's what you want in a husband,
Yeah. Yeah. I remember counseling a woman who was not married, had a kid with a guy. She's the spiritual leader and she was having demonic attacks.
Okay.
And I go, okay, you get it. You can, if you have faith, you can cast this demon out of your home. That's true. Or I can go to your home and we could do it together and we'll cast this out. But that's only temporary. Why? Because your lifestyle is a huge open door.
It's a huge open door. It's not going to work for long.
I'm like, one, do you love this man and does he love you? You already created a life. Do you want to do it God's way? That means you have to get married. If you don't love him, then don't be with him. Don't let him live in your apartment. At the same time, if let's say yes, the answer is yes to all those questions and you get married, now you have to wait till he gets trained up in the faith. And you're going to have to deal with open doors from demons and wrong thinking
right?
For that time. So I was warning the lady, like, this is the route that you're going to take because of what you've chosen. So it's very important. It's not, you can't approach dating nonchalantly.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, or living together or anything. That's so culture. I remember I saw it happening when I was in high school. Like you started to see all these movies where like people were living together and like that was the normal thing, and I'm like, this is like in almost every movie nowadays, and now it's like it's just so culturally normal and the churches are silent about it, and so this is what people just think is normal. You gotta know if you can live with someone before you marry them, right? You gotta test it out first. That's what people say.
That's what they say. They say, oh, it's like a car. You gotta test drive it first before you buy it. And I'm like, a person is not a car. It's hitting the disrespect red flag and hitting the non-committal red flag as well.
Right.
Because, it might seem like you're committing because you're living together now and you're sharing resources and space and time. But there's always a way out. There's no public declaration of your commitment. Because people say, oh, marriage is just a piece of paper. It's not. In the eyes of the Lord, it's binding.
Yeah.
And the only way out of it is death, infidelity, or abuse, pretty much. All the other excuses are just kind of things that people blow up so that they can get away. But if there's no public, announcement and a public accountability, like from a church, you're going to end up with a society of broken relationships, that don't even get to marriage.
Yeah.
And guess what? We're there.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask about one thing. Like, what if, like, as a man, I see women who are like, my husband doesn't read his Bible as much as I do and all this stuff. So, like, what does it look like? Like, sometimes men just have a different, like, outward appearance of being spiritual
yeah.
or being a spiritual head of the household.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you know that?
Well, I've seen tyrant men that know scripture,
That's true.
and they beat their wives
Over the head.
over the head with a Bible.
Right.
You know, not literally, but figuratively.
Yeah.
So that's just a facade. What I look for is a man who loves Jesus,
Yeah.
a man who can't wait to worship, a man who can't wait to read their Bible because Jesus shows up, you know? And if they love Jesus with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength, they can do that to their wives. Because it's true. If the foundation of our faith is Jesus forgiving us for all our sins, I can forgive my wife for all her sins and not counting her sins against her. And so when you're dating, if you have a man that can do that, that's a strong candidate for a husband. And I think for a wife, it's the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad
Intimacy with Christ is number one.
Yeah.
Number one. Then knowledge after that. Because if you put knowledge first, you can use it as a facade, as a mask.
That's true. That's good.
Make people believe you're spiritual, but you're actually not. You're a tyrant.
Yeah.
So I think those are huge red flags that we covered.
They're big red flags, and I think they cover a lot of sub issues that people think about too.
Yeah. So, we'll talk about dating in the future, I think.
Yeah.
I know Easter is coming, so we got to do an Easter podcast. But until then, you guys, we love you all, and we just want to say Godspeed and God bless. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, and don't forget to watch this video over here that YouTube's going to suggest and like and subscribe. Okay. Bye again.
Bye.